Hey there everybody, my name is Chris and this handsome guy is Charlie, and we'd like to welcome you to our YouTube channel. I'm hoping that I can share some things with you that maybe you haven't learned yet and help you to discover this really fantastic art form of acrylic pour painting. So I hope you'll subscribe and I hope you'll check back often to see if there's any new videos loaded up. So thanks again for joining us, and once again, welcome. Hey everybody, today I'm going to show you how to do a puddle pour on a Lazy Susan. I purchased the Pine Lazy Susan at Home Depot, and it is a 17 3/4 inch round. It is an inch thick, and they run about $7 in Iowa. I don't know for sure. I assume they're all about the same no matter where you go. What I did was sand the wood down to kind of knock down the grain a little bit, and then I did 2 coats of the Bullseye 123 primer. This one is the water-based one, so it's easy cleanup, and I waited about 45 minutes between each coat, and I did do the sides and the top and the bottom. And then after the 2 coats were done, I did another light sand just to kind of knock down the wood grain on it. And then I also taped the back of it. This will eventually get a resin coating so that it'll be heat safe for whoever wants to use it. Today I'm going to use Artist Loft Flow Acrylic White and Payne's Gray, as well as a custom silver that I like to mix myself. I do pre-mix my paints in these handy dandy little condiment bottles, and my custom silver consists of Liquitex Basic Silver, and it also has the Rust-O-Lam glitter paint in it. I love this paint. It's probably my favorite thing to add to my pours, especially when I do something like a home decor item. For example, I'll use it on coasters, or if I do a turntable, when I do trivets. I just love the little glitter and sparkle that it adds to the projects that I do with it. And then I've also watered down my consistency on my paints. My paints are pre-mixed with about 2 ounces of tube paint. Kind of depends on which brand I'm using as to how much pouring medium I use, but I generally add about 6 to 8 ounces of pouring medium to about 2 ounces of paint in my condiment bottles. And my pouring medium is 4 cups of Floetrol. I do strain that first. And then I add a cup of Glue All, a half a cup of the Liquitex pouring medium, and then about a 1/4 cup of water. And I like to try to keep that pre-mixed so that I can mix my paints really quickly. So I've just added some of my paints to my cups, and I've added water to get it kind of to a nice little runny consistency, which is like the best way to do a puddle pour. And then I'm just going to kind of start with my white, and then randomly add the Payne's Gray and my custom silver that I have mixed. And I really love using the Payne's Gray because I feel like it really does some really cool effects. So I'm just going to kind of start with doing some white spots first, and then I'll go back in with the Payne's Gray. And I'm kind of trying to achieve sort of a marble look. And I've done this on some canvases and it turned out pretty cool. So I'm kind of excited to try it on the turntable to see what it'll do. And I probably pour more paint than what I need to, but I would rather have too much paint and pour off than to not have enough and try to scramble to get it covered later. So I kind of tend to be generous with my paint. And I will tell you that this is the first turntable I have done where I have primed it with the Zinsser. I did try one before and thought I could just pour directly on it and not have issues. Unfortunately, it warped just absolutely horribly. And we think it was probably because the pine was just so soft and it absorbed the paint, and the whole thing just made a big old hot mess. Fortunately, they did flatten out, but we decided that it might be better to try to prime them first before painting just to kind of give it a little extra help and maybe protect it from being, from it to warp. Hopefully this takes care of it. So I just continue to add my paints kind of in the same color order with the white and the Payne's gray and then the silver. And hopefully this will turn out really super cool. And hopefully I've mixed enough paint. After I told you that I like to use lots of paint so that I don't run out, I have a feeling that I might need a little bit more. We'll see. Hopefully it'll be okay. So I'm just going to go back and add a little bit more silver in some of my bubbles. And I'm going to leave white on some of the tops. And I do think I'm going to mix a little bit more white just so that I can kind of fill in my areas and make sure that we're absolutely covered. So as I said, I like to have all my paints pre-mixed. So I had all my paints out here just in case I didn't have enough. I don't normally pour on the kitchen counter, so. All right, and I've got a little chunk there, so we'll get rid of that because we don't want that in our pour. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fill in a little bit of my negative space that I have just to be sure that everything is gonna meet and everything is covered. And we should be good to go. So I kind of watched Melly D. She does the puddle pour. She's kind of the one who inspired me to try the puddle pours, I guess, when I was watching YouTube videos. And she kind of likes to run her finger through some of the paint to kind of get some reactions, but you can see that there's already reactions starting with what I've just poured. But I'm just going to kind of run my fingers around through the circles just to kind of get a little bit of, actually, you know what? I think we'll use the stir stick because that way my fingers aren't a hot mess. So I'm just going to run the stir stick through just to kind of get some of the movement going. And then we'll just pick it up and start tilting it. So I kind of like to do a circular motion when I'm working on a surface like this. Kind of learned that when I started pouring, and I'll try to hold it so that you can see it. I've been pouring quite a few albums to make clocks out of them, and I find kind of the circular motion works well for that. Kind of get things going and moving around, and obviously we want to go off the edge. I apologize because I'm sure that you probably cannot see this very well right now. See if I can get a good angle here so that you can see it. And I do kind of some severe tilting once I get the paint going just to get it to do some cool stuff here. I could have used a little bit more paint, but we're going to eke it out anyway. And then I do want to try and get it over here on this other side. Kind of see it looks pretty cool. I love the Payne's gray, and as I said, I really love the sparkle that I get off of that custom silver that I mix up. So I apologize, once again, you're not able to see. Just trying to get this one edge covered a little bit more. And obviously I'm going to go off the edges so that I get a really cool pattern on the sides, especially since this is going to be a piece that would probably sit in the middle of someone's table. So kind of get some cool things going with it. You can see the Payne's gray is really prevalent there. I think it's looking pretty cool though. Might have to do a little touch up on the sides just to make sure that I've got everything pretty. I think that looks pretty awesome though. You can kind of, I don't know if you're able to see the the sparkle that that paint creates, but it gives it a really cool sheen, and when it gets resined, it'll be like super amazing how pretty it'll be. But so I'm just going to go around and kind of touch up my sides a little bit to make sure that my paint is covering, because I don't really want just the primer showing. And it is kind of dripping down, so I'm going to try to not mess up with my drips, the natural drips that I have, and kind of keep the colors going all the way down the edges so that it looks really neat. So, I think it turned out pretty cool. Hopefully you can tell that there's some really pretty sparkle in it, and I'm just going to turn it real quick here and make sure that I've got all the edges. Make sure that everything's coated. Much easier to make sure it's coated now rather than later when it's all dry, and then you can't match the paints up. So, stay tuned for the next installment and I'll show you how to resin this guy. Probably going to let it sit for, I would say probably at least 2 weeks before I can resin it. Hopefully having that base coat of primer down really helps a lot with how it's going to dry, and hopefully it'll cure a lot quicker that way too. And with the paints being thinner, sometimes I feel like I don't have to let it cure quite as long when I'm doing kind of a puddle pour with the paints being thinner. So hopefully you enjoyed this little installment, and I'll see you next time and show you how to finish this piece. Thanks for watching.